Hello everybody, this is Gregory with how I lost over 100 pounds and I've kept it off for 30 plus years, where there should be no hesitance in your weight loss and maintenance. Today I'm going to give 10 tips for women on how to keep their weight regular and normal throughout most of their life. Now before I begin, if you need help with weight loss, contact me through the Clarity FM link found here in the episode notes. Also check out my 2 books which you can purchase on Amazon. And lastly, if you appreciate my content, there is a link for PayPal. Also, don't forget my website and don't forget my podcast, The Awakened Man and the Female Holistic Health Apothecary. Okay, so this episode is directly centered toward women. We know as a whole, and I'm sorry if I'm not speaking that loud and the lighting's not that great, but I'm recording this. My daughter's still asleep, so I'm trying not to wake her up. And I'm wearing the Obi-Wan Kenobi robe here, but really it's a sweater. So we know that women as a whole have a more difficult time losing weight. And there's a couple of reasons. Most of this, of course, is biological. Women as a whole carry more body fat on them simply because they're the ones that have children. And lots of times when you see 2 couples who are trying to lose weight, the man will drop the weight faster than the woman. And some of that's just the way we're wired, and there's no way to change that. That's irrevocable. But that's not to say that it's not possible for women to lose weight, of course, and it's not possible to say that women can't stay in shape, and it's not possible to say that despite some of the disadvantages that women have vis-a-vis the body fat, that women can't be healthy. And like a lot of things I talk about here, a lot of it starts with the childhood. A lot of it does start with the childhood. So let's just get to it. These are in no particular order, 10 things that would help a woman keep her weight regular her whole life. And a lot of these you can apply to men, but this is specific to women. So number 1 is instill a healthy diet. Now, I mean, this is pretty obvious. If we build the framework, the foundation of healthy eating at a young age, you're more likely to eat well. We've talked about it here before. We need to end the intergenerational obesity. Fat grandparents, then you see the fat parents, and they take them to the trough at Golden Corral, and you see all these fat kids, right? So we are modeling our behavior. We have an episode on that here. I'll try to put the banner in. But if you can instill good, healthy eating into your child at a young age, it's better for the child. And what's the most important thing about healthy eating? Eat until you're no longer hungry, not eat until you're full, or the worst thing you can do is eat until you finish your entire plate. These are not good habits to instill in your child at all. Also, avoid trauma. Have them avoid trauma, because we know trauma then leads to disordered relationships with a host of things. You could have onychophagia, trichotillomania, compulsive drinking, compulsive eating, like in my case when I was a child. So clearly, if we can keep our children protected from trauma and instill in them the importance of good eating, what is healthy, what is not healthy. And I'm not really a person to label food as bad or not bad food, because all food in itself is not bad. There's just certain foods that we want to eat less than others. But when we label foods as bad or not bad, it can lead to some problems later on. Number 2 would be instill an active lifestyle into that child. So have them do sports when they're younger, or just have them go to the park a lot and run around. Be a free-range parent, let them run around, walk around the neighborhood. But instill in them the importance of being active, not necessarily the importance of being fit, this is age appropriate, but of being active. And look, if they're in sports in high school, they're less likely to delve into drugs and teenage pregnancy and all these. The studies bear that out. If kids are active in high school and feel like they belong to a community, they're less likely to do those pernicious things. But if you have the child in especially cardio stuff, which for female sports is mostly cardio, but in particular cross country and track or swimming or tennis, you see 10, 15 years later, these girls tend to be in better shape because it's wired in them to love the cardio high. Just really quickly, not just to talk about men who do football in high school tend to be overweight later on because they like to lift weights, and the only cardio they did was actually during practice in football. When football was over in their career, they just didn't really have that wired in them. So get that instinct to work out in you at a very young age. So even if you're not in sports, let's say you're in college and later on, you like to run, you like to swim, you like to bike, and this will stay with you forever. Number 3, now we're going to be more in the adult time. avoid the freshman 15. Most of you guys are familiar with this. This is a term that women and men now, but can gain 15 pounds their freshman year in college. Now, with obesity being so pervasive, I mean, you could have the freshman in high school 15 as well. But the reason for the freshman 15 in college is you leave your parents, now you're in a new environment, you have 24-hour cafeterias, you have a lot of places, of course, surrounded by fast food. People are going to parties, they're drinking alcohol, which is excessive calories, and all these things that can pack on the weight. And then the next thing you know, you've gained 15 pounds. And so at 22, if you've already gained 15 pounds or more, you're already behind the 8 ball. You're already overweight, if not obese. And so you're already kind of not in a place you want to be. So when you're in college, you do want to eat well, and you do want to instill and exercise and implement those good eating habits that you developed early on, and as well as the exercise habits as well. Number 4 is going to be avoid alcohol. Now, this can be, of course, connected to college, but in general, alcohol is a class 1 carcinogen. It leads to cancer, and in addition to being systemically bad for your body. But vis-a-vis weight loss and weight management, this is one of the foundational videos that we have here, is alcohol is just a waste of calories. It's just a waste of calories, especially the drinks that most girls like to drink, most women, which are the cocktails. It's just a lot of sugar, right? A lot of food dyes, but in general, it's just a waste of calories. So if you can have a life where you're barely ever drinking, like myself, you're just saving a lot of calories right there. Number 5 is don't fall for the idea that men like fat women. Now, this is important, and it's hard, I think, for certain women to hear this. But you need to understand, with the rise of the body positive movement, and we have 2 videos here on the body positive movement, how you should not embrace this. But with the rise of the body positive movement, there are women who believe, and men as well, who believe that the opposite sex is okay with them being fat. No, we talk about this in the episode 5 lies that fat people tell themselves. No, your spouse might tolerate you being obese, but they're sure not happy that you're obese unless your husband has a penchant, for a proclivity for chubby divas, so to speak. But as a whole, you cannot fall into this illusion and delusion in your 20s that, oh, it's okay that I'm fat, men will still like me. You're limiting your dating pool and your marrying pool if you think this and you stay overweight. Let's be real for what it is. The body positive movement is illusory, and it's deceptive, and ultimately it's not good for you, because by embracing the fact that you think that it's okay to be overweight, it shortens your life expectancy, and that's not good for you, right? Number 6, when you get pregnant, don't gain too much weight. The average woman should not gain more than 30 pounds. This was the accepted number for decades, 30 pounds. And you've seen, I remember when Jessica Simpson, the singer, had one of her kids, she gained like 80 pounds. She's like, yeah, I'm just gaining 80 pounds. And again, if you've already gained weight because of college, and then you're just like, oh, I'm pregnant, I got to feed the baby. No, your body feeds the baby already. And the majority of the weight gain is actually in the 3rd trimester, because the baby, the fetus, is only about 1 pound going into the last trimester. And so it starts to actually gain weight. All the organs are formed within the 8th week of gestation, but it starts gaining weight at the end, and therefore that's when you're supposed to be gaining weight. So the way you know if you're gaining an appropriate amount of weight in pregnancy is, honestly, and you don't really see this a lot as much, is when you see the pregnant woman from behind, you can't tell she's pregnant. You can't tell she's pregnant. All you should really have is the bump. Don't let go, because what happens is you increase your chance of your child having gestational diabetes and you getting preeclampsia and all these other conditions. But again, when you have the baby, and this is going to be number 7, is you got to lose the weight quickly. And it's a lot easier if you only gain, let's say, 27 pounds in your pregnancy, to only have to lose like 7 or 8 pounds. And there are women who did this. I remember there was that picture of that woman who had 3 young babies, and she was fit. And she's like, what is your excuse? Look at Alec Baldwin's wife. She's had 7 kids naturally in the last 10 years, and she's still in shape. Why? Because she's a yoga instructor. Yes, you could say, well, she's got all these fitness trainers and so forth, but part of it is before she got famous, she already had that exercise regimen wired in her. So you don't, a lot of people gave these women a lot of hate for that. It's like, well, no, but that's how our ancestors were. Our ancestors did not get obese, partly because they didn't have enough calories to get obese. But if you gain a lot of weight in pregnancy, you're just even more behind the 8 ball and having to lose it. And yes, number 8 could be lose the weight, or I should say number 7 should be lose the weight. If you don't lose the weight at that point, it's going to be really hard to lose that weight if you're 40, 50 pounds overweight. And again, it's lowering your sexual market value as well. Number 8 is don't eat your emotions. I think this is a pretty obvious one. This is something that men do as well. But I think women, since women are a little more emotion-based than men are, I think this is a more prevalent problem too. So we have videos here on how to 10 actions you can do before you binge eat, for example. I'll try to put a banner in that. If not, just go through the episodes at the website. But when you're feeling something, there's ways to so to speak, purge that out of you. So whether that be running or journaling or just being cognizant, like, hey, I'm emotional. And you can tell this with drug addicts and alcoholics. I know this seems really tempting. That first bite's always the best, and then every subsequent bite isn't as savory. But I know in the long run this isn't going to help me, and it's just putting another monkey on my back, and I need to stop from this. So you have to intervene and have enough cognizance and discernment to realize that I'm about to eat my emotions and this is not good. Number 9 is fix any improper relationships that you have with food. So again, this goes back to childhood trauma or even adult trauma. Let's say divorce or something happens to you. An ordered relationship with food, as I mentioned before, like you put a plate in front of a 5-year-old, they're only going to eat till they're no longer hungry. And that's the kind of relationship we should have with food. Food is not the answer. Food is not going to numb your pain. Food is just stuff that our body needs to metabolize to keep us going. And that is kind of the stripped down, Spartan, pragmatic view you must have of food. And if you don't have that kind of proper relationship with food, as you get older in your 50s and 60s and 70s, it's going to be harder for you to keep your weight down because you're still feeding and numbing the pain. And the last thing is just lower your caloric intake. We've talked about this in general. Just one of the ways old people stay alive is you got to lower your caloric intake because your body doesn't need as much calories when you're 85 than when it did when you were 35. And there's an old saying, like, why don't you see a lot of fat 85-year-olds? It's because they're all dead. The majority of geriatrics at a nursing home, for example, the majority are pretty regular weighted or they're skinny as birds. And so when you get older, your metabolism isn't burning like it used to, so you have to adjust. We have to adjust. One way you can adjust is always by continue to exercise, take walks at this point, or swim, something that's not tough on the joints. Still do strength training for women as well. The other thing is just lower your calories. I mean, you can't be eating the junk food. You can't be eating the high calorie food. You got to start eating like a bird because you have to adjust to what your body is adjusting to, which is the geriatric period. Guys, I hope this helped. Post in the comments, hit the notification, subscribe, and share button. Until next time, take care, God bless, and pray.